Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to Ukraine today, the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister ever, and that too in the middle of the war. He met President Zelensky. We'll tell you about what he said about the war and what agreements the two sides have signed. Meanwhile, closer home, a new challenge is brewing. Bangladesh has been hit by floods and it blames India for it. Students are protesting. Social media is abuzz with anti-India content. We'll tell you how this began and what it means for bilateral ties. In the US, as Kamala Harris was crowned the Democratic nominee, Donald Trump live posted attacks on her. And the Gaza war is proving to be her biggest weakness. Also, why is cryptocurrency the focus in this US election? We'll talk about all of this. In India, PTM has sold a part of its business to Zomato. We'll break it down for you. In the Kolkata rape case, the college principal is under the scanner. He's said to have run operations like a mafia boss. When laws in society fail, can technology ensure the safety of women? We bring you some success stories and challenges. The world's first lung cancer vaccine is undergoing trial in 7 countries. The world's second largest diamond found in Botswana weighs almost half a kilo. And India is celebrating its first National Space Day. We look at the incredible journey and what lies ahead. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Hamas accuses Israel of delaying the Gaza truce deal. The main sticking point is the presence of Israeli troops on the Egyptian border. Israel has sent a team to Egypt now to negotiate a hostage release deal, but Hamas won't be attending these talks being held in Cairo. Venezuela's Supreme Court confirms President Nicolas Maduro's disputed re-election. The opposition claims that the July election was rigged. Many Western countries have urged for the full publication of the results. But some, like Russia and China, have backed Maduro. The UAE accepts the Taliban government's ambassador. It is only the second country to do so after China. The oil-rich Gulf state says it wants to help the Afghan people. In June, the UAE hosted Afghanistan's interior minister, who is wanted by the US. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer speaks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The phone call was the first formal conversation between the two leaders since Starmer took office last month. China is among Britain's top trading partners. In recent years, relations between these two countries have been frosty. And President Emmanuel Macron kicks off tense talks on forming a new French government. Macron lost his parliamentary majority in last month's inconclusive election, but he is hoping to cobble together a viable ruling coalition. Macron is yet to name a new prime minister. It's been a hectic day of diplomacy. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ukraine was brief, just 7 hours long. Despite that, there were some significant outcomes. On the war, India reaffirmed its support for a diplomatic solution. Prime Minister Modi said that he is willing to help and facilitate this dialogue. Plus, a total of 4 agreements were signed, including a pact on humanitarian assistance for Ukraine. And finally, India delivered a strong message to the opponents of its independent foreign policy. Let's bring you the highlights. Prime Minister Modi arrived early this morning in Kiev. He took an overnight train from Poland, spending 10 hours on the Rail Force 1. He was welcomed by Ukraine's first deputy foreign minister. Prime Minister Modi was not travelling alone, of course. 2 of his top cabinet colleagues accompanied him, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. From the train station, they went to the Hyatt Hotel in Kiev. There, members of the Indian community greeted him. Prime Minister Modi's first stop was the Gandhi statue in Kiev. This bronze statue was unveiled in 2020. Modi paid a homage to the Mahatma there. The Prime Minister's next stop was more significant, the National Museum of History, where he was greeted by Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Both leaders were there to witness an exposition set up in the memory of the children who lost their lives in the war. Prime Minister Modi greeted Zelensky with a hug and placed a toy in the memory of the victims. This gesture by the Indian Prime Minister is quite significant. Remember, he'd met the Russian president 6 weeks ago. In that meeting, Modi raised the death of children with Putin. This was right after a children's hospital in Kiev was targeted. Russia had conducted a lethal missile strike. More than 40 people, including 4 children, had died in that attack. Now, Modi met Putin a day after that, and he said that the death of innocent children was quote-unquote painful and terrifying. The same sentiment was conveyed in his meeting with Zelensky today.
लेकिन जब आज मैं उन बालकों की स्मृति में बनाए हुए म्यूजियम को आपके साथ जाकर के अपने श्रद्धा सुमन अर्पित कर रहा था तो मेरा मन भर आया था, दिल को गहरी चोट पहुंची थी। और मुझे लगता है कि युद्ध की सबसे पहली कैजुअलिटी किसकी होती है तो निर्दोष बालकों की होती है और वो बहुत दर्दनाक होता है।
In that spirit, Modi urged Zelensky to start a dialogue to end this conflict. The Indian Prime Minister has made this appeal in the past as well to both Zelensky and Putin. 2 years ago, he told Vladimir Putin that this is not the era of war. During his visit to Moscow last month, he again stressed the need for dialogue. And today, Prime Minister Modi made a personal appeal to Zelensky.
हमने बिना समय गंवाए उस दिशा में आगे बढ़ना चाहिए। दोनों पक्षों को साथ बैठ करके इस संकट की घड़ी से बाहर निकलने के रास्ते तलाशने होंगे। मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं कि शांति के हर प्रयास में भारत अपनी सक्रिय भूमिका निभाने के लिए तैयार है। व्यक्तिगत रूप से मैं भी अगर इसमें कोई योगदान कर सकता हूं तो मैं जरूर करना चाहूँगा। एक मित्र के रूप में मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं।
Zelensky did not get a chance to respond to that, at least not in the front of the press, because Prime Minister Modi was speaking after Zelensky's opening remarks. Zelensky called the Indian leader's visit historic. He also hinted that India could play a role in ending this war. But here's the catch. Zelensky wants a truce on his terms. He wants India to endorse his peace plan.
The matter of ending the war and a just peace is the priority for Ukraine. We held the first inaugural peace summit. I want to thank India for being present at this summit. We expect India to join the joint communique of inaugural summit. I will talk about it with the Prime Minister.
Zelensky is referring to the peace summit, the one that was held in June this year. India had sent a delegation to this event. Russia was not part of it. They had not been invited. And for that reason, India refused to sign the joint communique. Now, New Delhi believes that for any peace proposal to succeed, both sides will have to agree to it. Prime Minister Modi maintained this position during the bilateral talks today. India and Ukraine have agreed to keep talking. Modi has invited Zelensky to visit India. Ukraine says it wants India to be part of the solution. It wants India to attend the next peace summit as well. This request was reiterated in the joint statement issued by both sides. Plus, there were other outcomes from these talks. Like I said, 4 bilateral agreements were signed. They cover areas like humanitarian assistance, agriculture, medicines and drugs, and cultural cooperation. So these are the broad takeaways. The leaders are said to have had a frank discussion, an exchange of opinion, particularly on issues where Ukraine has held grievances against India, like India's purchase of Russian oil. Minister Jaishankar reiterated India's position on this matter, and yet again he took a subtle jibe at the West.
it's not like there's a political strategy to buy oil. There is a oil strategy to buy oil. There's a market strategy to buy oil. So the figures of where we get our oil imports go up and down. It depends on the state of the market. But it would definitely, I think the fact that the market is tight, that today big suppliers like Iran and Venezuela, who used to supply India, are constrained from operating freely in the markets.
That's a reference to Western sanctions on Iranian and Venezuelan oil. Jaishankar said India's purchases are necessary to meet the needs of Indians. They also play a role in the stability of the global markets. He also responded to Western criticism of Prime Minister Modi's trip to Russia.
In our part of the world, when people meet people, they are given to embracing each other. It may not be part of your culture, but I assure you it's part of ours. So, in fact, today I think I saw the Prime Minister also embrace President Zelensky, and I've seen him do it with a number of other leaders in a number of other places. So I think perhaps we have a slightly cultural a gap here in terms of what these courtesies mean.
That's how the West views Prime Minister Modi's visits to Ukraine and Russia. Before Modi arrived, many had labelled this trip as a balancing act, saying that the trip to Moscow and the bear hug to Putin had damaged India's global standing. That's a Western pressure tactic wrapped in analysis and criticism, basically. But India does not see it like this. This visit to Ukraine underscores India's strong position in global affairs. It shows how India remains one of the few players that can engage with opposing sides while also reaffirming its own national interest. In the neighborhood, India is facing renewed tensions with Bangladesh. Flash floods in the region have displaced millions of people, and Dhaka is blaming New Delhi for this. Their interim government says that India caused these floods in Bangladesh. In fact, India too has been hit by the same floods. They have wreaked havoc in the northeastern Indian state of Tripura and parts of western Bangladesh. There is significant damage on both sides of the border. In Tripura, 19 people are dead and more than 1 million are displaced. In Bangladesh, though, the situation is far more serious. Reports say at least 15 people have died and more than 4 million have been displaced. The water has started receding in some parts, but it may take days for the flood waters to completely clear up. But what is causing this flooding? This region has been inundated by heavy rains. The rainwater caused widespread flooding. It has destroyed farmlands, ruined crops and damaged homes. Rescue operations are underway, but the rescue workers too are struggling.
The situation is so grave. There is a lot of aid, but if we're not able to rescue those who are stuck, who will we give it to? They will get the relief, for that they have to survive. We don't have boats here. I want all of Bangladesh to send us boats. We don't need more aid. We need boats so that we can save them.
The situation is quite serious, yet Dhaka is engaging in politics over it. Nahid Islam is blaming India. He says India caused these floods. And who is Nahid Islam? He's one of the student leaders who led the anti-government protests, the ones that led to the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. He led that protest. Now, Nahid Islam is part of the interim government. He is serving as the advisor for information and broadcasting. And he says that India is engaging in quote-unquote anti-people policy. In fact, we have his statement, and I'm quoting, India has shown inhumanity and non-cooperation by opening the dams without any advance warning. Students and people of Bangladesh are angry with this policy of India. And which dam is he talking about? The Dumbur Dam in Tripura. It is built over the Gumti River. Now, this river flows through Tripura and into the Comilla district of Bangladesh. Dumbur is also a hydropower facility. Both India and Bangladesh get electricity from it. Nahid Islam claims that this dam caused the flooding. He says India opened the dam gates without warning. But is that really the case? New Delhi has issued a rebuttal. The Ministry of External Affairs has released a statement. It said such claims, and I'm quoting, such claims are factually not correct. Instead, India gave two reasons for the flooding. First, the heavy rains, which caused the water levels to rise. The catchment areas of Gumti River had more water than usual, and this excess water led to the flooding. That's one reason. The second reason is the location of the dam. The Dumbur Dam is not on the India-Bangladesh border. It is in fact 120 kilometers upstream. What does that mean? What is upstream? It means the dam is closer to the river source. So the water has to travel a lot of distance before reaching Bangladesh. Plus, India also pointed out that this dam is just about 30 meters tall. It cannot hold or release a huge amount of water at one point in time. Definitely not enough to flood entire towns or villages. However, India did mention that the Dumbur Dam was auto-releasing some water. This was because of the rainfall, and this too is not unusual. All dams that generate electricity store water. When this water exceeds the reservoir's capacity, the dam releases some of it. And this does not cause a flash flood. But Nahid Islam has made a statement blaming India, and this statement has taken a life of its own. It has reignited anti-India sentiments in Bangladesh. Students took to the streets. There were protests in Dhaka University where students blamed India for the floods. There is outrage on social media too, also a flood of fake news, with some Bangladeshis suggesting a link between Sheikh Hasina's ouster and these floods. They claim that India deliberately released the flood waters in response to Sheikh Hasina's removal from power. These claims couldn't be more absurd, but they have turned into a security nightmare for the Indian mission in Dhaka. Apparently, they've received online threats. Some protesters wanted to march to the High Commission and demonstrate over these floods. The Indian High Commissioner has taken this up with Muhammad Yunus. He's the chief advisor of Bangladesh, basically the country's caretaker leader. India escalated the matter to him. In response, security at the Indian mission has been stepped up. And this situation highlights India's biggest challenge in Bangladesh today. There's a political vacuum with all kinds of players trying to grab space, and this could hurt India's long-term interests. New Delhi and Dhaka need to work together to handle crises like these floods. There is no other option. Both countries have 54 rivers running between them, 54 rivers between India and Bangladesh, and climate change has turbocharged floods and made them more frequent. So bilateral cooperation is even more critical now. For over a decade, India and Bangladesh have enjoyed a stable bilateral relationship. It spans multiple areas like economy and connectivity, border security, defense and energy. Such reckless statements from Dhaka could hurt all of it, not to mention their own interests.
I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America. This, I will never hesitate.
It was a big day for Kamala Harris, the last day of the Democratic National Convention, DNC. After days of hype and build-up, it was finally her time to shine. She took to the DNC stage and officially accepted the Democratic Party's presidential nomination.
On behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth. I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
Now, just to be clear, this was all theatrics. She was officially made her party's nominee more than 2 weeks ago. Everything you just saw, everything that took place at the DNC over the past 4 days was basically just an advertisement. It was the Democratic Party's bid to jumpstart Kamala Harris's campaign and introduce her to the average American voter with great fanfare. When she took to the stage, Harris spoke about her family background, leaning into her diverse roots.
The path that led me here in recent weeks was no doubt unexpected. But I'm no stranger to unlikely journeys. So, my mother, our mother, Kamala Harris, had one of her own. My mother was a brilliant, 5-foot-tall, brown woman with an accent. She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it. Do something about it.
Now, whether you like her or not, you have to admit that Kamala Harris and the Democrats put up a good show there, and they needed that. This was a party that was down in the dumps a few weeks ago. It was all doom and gloom after Joe Biden's disastrous debate against Donald Trump. But now they have a shiny new candidate, someone thankfully much younger than Joe Biden, someone who can energize the voter base and may actually stand a chance against Trump. Over the last few days, you saw the Democrats sharpen their attacks. Harris did the same last night.
In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. And all the while, he intends to enact what in effect is a national sales tax, call it a Trump tax, that would raise prices on middle-class families by almost $4,000 a year.
But Trump isn't the type to take that lying down. He was ready for the onslaught and he decided to counter that in typical Trump fashion on social media. Trump was live posting on his social media platform Truth Social. For every point that Kamala Harris made, Donald Trump had a rebuttal. When she spoke about her past, Trump told her to focus on the issues. When she began attacking him, Trump geared up for the fight. When she spoke about the middle class, Trump blamed her for the crisis they were in. He wasn't letting anything slide. He went after her hammer and tongs. Now, of course, she wasn't paying attention. She was busy delivering her speech. But Trump was giving this play-by-play for a different audience, for his own supporters and the neutrals. You see, a number of Americans are still undecided. They don't know Kamala Harris well enough yet. So their votes are technically still up for grabs. And Donald Trump was gunning for those votes, one Truth Social post at a time. Now, towards the end of her speech, Kamala Harris addressed a major Democratic problem, which is the war in Gaza. We spoke about this yesterday, how some Democrats were actually protesting outside the DNC venue. These Democrats are uncommitted. They won't vote for the party unless it stops the Israel-Hamas war. Kamala Harris has upset this bloc already. A group called Muslim Women for Harris disbanded before her speech. They criticized Harris and the Democrats for not allowing a Palestinian American to take the stage at the DNC. The party wanted to avoid controversy, but instead, they walked right into it. There are about 700,000 uncommitted Democrats. Their votes will be critical if Harris is to defeat Trump. Harris knows this. But you see, she also needs Jewish American votes. So Harris tried to pull off a balancing act during her speech.
I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7. At the same time, What has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking.
That was her attempt at balance, her shot at trying to make both pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian Democrats happy. Trump attacked that too, claiming that Harris hates Israel and that she caused the October 7th attack somehow. Whether he can back that or not is not important. It's the deeper message. Trump is gunning for the Jewish American vote, and Harris has upset the pro-Palestinians. So she could end up losing both these factions. And this is a very close election, like we keep saying, every vote counts. So a successful DNC will not be enough. Kamala Harris should be well aware that the battle has just begun. So the stage is set, Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. We cannot tell you who will win, but we can tell you who the crypto industry is rooting for. Donald Trump. And why is that? Because of strict regulation. The crypto industry fears that another Democrat in the White House means more regulation. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is pitching himself as a pro-crypto candidate. He promises them a free hand. So what are they doing to ensure a Trump presidency? They're pouring money into the polls. $119 million so far. In fact, they're spending more than traditional conglomerates. Will this splurge help them sway the election? Our next report tells you.
Elections. They are an expensive spectacle. You can't fight an election without money, and more importantly, you can't win an election without money. The US presidential elections are no different, and it has quite the price tag. In 2016, it was around $6.5 billion. In 2020, it was almost $14 billion. So, more than double. And this year, it could be even more. Until April 2024, US political campaigns collected around $9 billion. 65% of this money came from PACs. That's political action committees. PACs don't belong to any party or candidate. They raise funds to influence elections. And who's giving them money? Well, a whole lot of corporations. But this year they have a new big donor. It's the crypto industry. Crypto is spending big on the 2024 elections. So much so that they account for almost half of all donations made to PACs. And how much money is that? Around $119 million. In fact, they're beating giant conglomerates at this game. But what explains this extravagant cash flow? Now, there's only one reason companies donate for elections. It's to influence the outcome. So crypto is no different here. Their money is being funneled into a non-partisan super PAC. It's focused on electing pro-crypto candidates. So who do the crypto companies want in the White House? By the looks of it, it's Donald Trump. And that's because the Democrats and crypto haven't had the best relationship. During the Biden presidency, the industry has faced heightened scrutiny. They were engaged in legal battles with the SEC, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, and Democrats have also been historically wary of crypto. Meanwhile, Trump is pitching himself as a crypto messiah. He's trying to sway them his way by promoting himself as a pro-crypto candidate. Last month, he even attended a major Bitcoin conference. His proposals include revamping the US energy policy to become a global leader in Bitcoin mining, removing the current SEC chair, and creating a national strategic reserve of Bitcoin. We don't know if he'll follow through, but it is attracting funding. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris remains mum on what her crypto policy will be. But that doesn't mean the crypto industry is putting all its eggs in one basket. Elections can go either way, and they know that. So they're trying to play it safe. That means money is flowing to both parties. Which brings us to the US crypto industry. Over 50 million Americans own digital assets. That means a lot of money is at stake. Last year was difficult for them. There was the collapse of FTX, Binance exiting the US market, and the largest crypto crackdown in US history. All of this has left companies spooked, so they're not leaving things to chance any longer. They are using money to buy leverage and clout this election season.
Zomato and PTM, two of India's most recognizable brands. One of them is selling to another, not their whole business, but a part of it. You may have heard of PTM Insider. It is basically PTM's entertainment app, movie tickets, concert tickets, sports tickets. You can buy all of them on PTM Insider. And Zomato is buying this business. Both companies announced the deal this week. Zomato is paying around 2,000 crore rupees to PTM. That's $238 million. Now, I know you have questions. Zomato is a delivery business. They deliver food and groceries to your home. But PTM Insider is more about going out. So what explains this deal? Well, Zomato is diversifying. This month, they unveiled a new mobile application. It's called District. This app will consolidate Zomato's outdoor business. Whether it's dining out or movie tickets or sports tickets, users can still find ticketing options on PTM for the next 12 months. After that, it will migrate to Zomato's new app. So that explains Zomato's decision. They're expanding beyond home delivery. But what about PTM? Why are they selling this business? Ticketing generated almost 300 crores in revenue for PTM. Profits were close to 30 crore rupees, so it wasn't bleeding money. Then why are they trying to sell it? Or why did they sell it? Maybe because PTM wants to focus on their core business, which is finance. You may remember what happened earlier this year. PTM ran into trouble with regulators. They had to shut down PTM's payments bank. Perhaps that was a wake-up call for the company, a reminder to focus on finance, and markets approve of this. Zomato shares were up 2% today. PTM shares were up around 0.3%. So shareholders welcome this deal. But questions remain, especially for Zomato and other food delivery companies. Look at the last quarter. Zomato posted 4,200 crore rupees as revenue, out of which profit was 253 crores. It's a big jump compared to the last quarter, but look who's contributing to that jump. Zomato's food business revenue was up 10%, but quick commerce revenue was up 22%. And that's Blinkit. So Blinkit is growing much faster than food delivery, and that's in line with market predictions. Most experts say that food delivery's golden age is over. That growth will be subdued. Zomato tried new ways to beat this trend. You may remember their intercity option. You could buy food from other cities. Well, yesterday they scrapped it because it never really took off, which is why Zomato is branching out to quick commerce and ticketing. They want to add 1,000 new Blinkit warehouses by the end of this financial year. They're pumping in money to almost 300 crore rupees in this financial year. So Zomato expects Blinkit to be a cash cow. Maybe it expects the same with PTM ticketing. And they have the tools to do it. Experts say Zomato could integrate their businesses. Just think about it. Food delivery at sports events or food orders at movie halls. The opportunities are endless. All you need is a big bang event to kick it off, and Zomato is doing that too. Their CEO posted this message today. Zomato is organizing a concert in Mumbai on the 30th of November. The Feeding India concert. And guess who's headlining it? Dua Lipa. It's clearly a strategically planned announcement. Zomato acquired PTM's business on Wednesday. The concert was announced on Friday. Chances are it will bring a lot of traffic to their ticketing business. But even otherwise, this industry is growing. You see, India's middle class is expanding. Our disposable income is rising, so live events will become more popular, like comedy shows or sports leagues or live plays. But this rise also has a downside. Right now, only two players dominate the space, Book My Show and PTM. They make up 90% of all online multiplex bookings. That sort of dominance has side effects. Indian courts have criticized Book My Show in the past. They've been accused of imposing unfair charges like internet handling fees, whatever that means. So this acquisition has many factors and consequences. Zomato's dream is to become India's lifestyle platform for food, for movies, for concerts, for anything outdoors or indoors. It's an ambitious dream that won't be easy to realize. Lung cancer is the world's leading cause of cancer death. It accounts for about 1.8 million deaths every year. But now doctors have taken a historic step. They have developed the world's first lung cancer vaccine. It is known as BNT116 and it is undergoing trial. This vaccine aims to identify cancerous cells and destroy them. It hopes to avoid collateral damage by leaving healthy cells untouched, unlike what happens during chemotherapy. So BNT116 is being hailed as groundbreaking. But does it have the potential to save countless lives? Our next report tells you.
For as long as there have been vaccines, there has been a dream to create a vaccine that can treat cancer. So far, we only have the HPV vaccine. It can prevent cervical cancer. But what about treatment? Well, humans may finally have the answer. Doctors have developed the world's first lung cancer vaccine. It's known as BNT116. And it has been made by BioNTech. This week, they began trialing the jab. Experts say that this is the next big phase of cancer treatment. They are hailing the jab as groundbreaking. After all, lung cancer is a global health concern. It's mainly caused by smoking, which is responsible for 85% of all cases. Lung cancer is usually diagnosed at an advanced stage, so treatment is less effective. Only a quarter of patients survive for 5 years. Lung cancer is the world's leading cause of cancer death. It accounts for about 1.8 million deaths every year. But the new vaccine can potentially save these lives. How will it work? Before we answer that, let's first understand the disease itself. Cancer is a leading cause of mortality globally. 20 million new cases were identified in 2022 alone. How does cancer get away with this? Because it wears an invisibility cloak. Cancer can hide from the immune system. It starts with changes in one cell, and it spreads to surrounding tissues, because the cells divide uncontrollably. What makes cancer hard to treat is that it's difficult to hunt these cells down. This is where the vaccine shows promise. It has a 3-step process: recognize, destroy, and prevent. As a first step, the vaccine flags the bad cells. It identifies the tumor and highlights it as a threat. This will hopefully push the body into step 2, triggering a response to obliterate the cancer cells. Unlike chemotherapy, this will avoid collateral damage by leaving healthy cells untouched. The third step is to strengthen the person's immune response and stop the cancer from coming back. Because for a lot of patients, despite radiation and surgery, it does come back. So these are the 3 steps: recognition, destruction, and prevention. Over the next 12 months, scientists will test out this theory. Phase 1 of the clinical trial has been launched across 7 countries: the UK, the US, Germany, Hungary, Poland, Spain, and Turkey. The UK's Janusz Rach has become the first human study. He was diagnosed a few months ago. This week, he received 6 consecutive injections. Why so many? Each injection is meant for a different part of his tumor, to train 5 billion cells in his immune system, so they can attack the cancerous cells. A total of 130 volunteers, including Rach, will receive the jabs. Dozens of doses will be administered. The trial will confirm whether there are any major side effects. If the jab is successful, and if all goes well, the trial will move to the next phase. This is going to be a long winding process, but it is a historic leap for cancer vaccines and for the future of millions of people.
Let's turn to the Kolkata rape and murder case. The focus is now on the former principal, the man who headed RG Kar Medical College. His name is Sandeep Ghosh, and he's got a sketchy past. Perhaps that's why the CBI is on to him. They're interrogating Dr. Ghosh relentlessly. He was called in today as well, the 8th day of consecutive grilling. And what are they asking him? Mostly about his actions leading up to the rape and murder. When did he know about it? How did he react? Whom did he call? And when did he report it? As far as we know, Ghosh was not physically involved in the crime, but his past is quite suspicious. Ghosh was appointed RG Kar's principal in 2021. His tenure was by no means clean. Let me tell you what happened in June last year. Ghosh was accused of corruption, that too by one of his colleagues at the medical college. Apparently, he was illegally selling biomedical waste, even misusing pandemic funds. So an inquiry was initiated by the state government and Ghosh was transferred from RG Kar College to Murshidabad Medical College. But 15 days later, he was back. And the inquiry? Its findings were never published. The same thing happened in September 2023. Trainee doctors accused Ghosh of corruption. He was again shuttled to Murshidabad, but 1 month later, he was back. Does any of this sound fishy to you? Well, it should. The same principal was accused of corruption twice. Both times he was transferred and both times he was reinstated. Almost sounds like someone is protecting him. The same thing happened after this month's rape and murder. Dr. Ghosh offered his resignation, but the state government rejected it. Instead, they shuttled him to another college. Only on Wednesday did they cancel that transfer. Imagine that, 13 days after the crime. This is what has happened. Even the Supreme Court is asking why.
After the principal resigns from this medical college,
he's sent to another hospital.
He's appointed as a principal of another college.
Immediately. He doesn't resign. But anyway, be that
At the least, his conduct is under scrutiny, and he's appointed as a principal somewhere else.
The principal's role is important here. He headed the college when the crime happened, so he should have filed the FIR. But as we know, there was a delay. The FIR was filed 14 hours after the body was discovered, and that too by the victim's father, not the principal. The question is why? We may get the answer soon because the CBI is conducting a lie detector test on Dr. Ghosh. A Kolkata court has given them permission. So we should have clarity soon. But from everything we've heard, one thing is clear. Ghosh is not your straightforward principal. He ran the college as he saw fit. Look at what his co-workers have said, that he used to illegally sell unclaimed dead bodies, illegally sold biomedical waste, failed students on purpose, took a 20% cut on college tenders and took money for allocating hostel rooms. Frankly, it doesn't sound like a principal, it sounds like a mafia boss. Did the state government not know about this? Let me show you a new report. It says Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee sent a personal letter to Dr. Ghosh. She wished him on his birthday in 2022. Apparently, he was on the Chief Minister's good books. Not a good look, is it? But that's not her only worry at the moment. Reports say her party is divided on this issue. That's the TMC or the Trinamool Congress. That's her party. On one side is Mamata Banerjee. On the other is her number 2 and nephew, Abhishek Banerjee. Last week, the Chief Minister took out a protest rally, but Abhishek Banerjee was absent. Reports say he is not happy with how this case was handled. And he is not alone. Another TMC MP is attacking the Kolkata police. He wants the CBI to question the police commissioner. So this is clearly a political challenge too. Now I know what you're thinking. The principal's alleged corruption did not cause the murder, nor did the Chief Minister's birthday wishes. Well, we can't be sure at this point. The victim's friends say it is a possibility. They claim that she knew too much about the college mafia and maybe that led to her murder. The police or CBI have not confirmed this angle, but the victim's colleagues stand by it. Plus, such corruption is a symptom of something larger. They expose institutional problems, problems in the way the college was run, and such institutional issues do contribute to crime. Just think about it. What if the principal was more focused on college security and less interested in bribes? What if he had vetted the civic volunteer before hiring him? I'm talking about the arrested suspect. He had a history of assaulting his wife, yet he was at the hospital. You see, crimes do not happen in a vacuum. They happen because people and institutions fail. The question is, did that happen in Kolkata? The signs are not good so far, but we'll hold off for the probe to end. Text me when you get home. I'm tracking your cab ride. Share your location on WhatsApp. Are you carrying pepper spray? If you're a woman, you'd be familiar with these phrases. They're passed on women to women like an heirloom. Safety may be a basic right, yet for women, it is very much a luxury. They're not safe at home, they're not safe at workplaces, and certainly not on the streets. Look at this data. It's from India's national capital. 95% women and girls say they feel unsafe in public spaces. 95%. Here's another report that covers the whole country. 90% of women feel unsafe while traveling. 66% have experienced harassment on the streets. 44% have been catcalled. 29% have been followed by men. It is a painful reality, one that women face every day. So how can we make it better? Where society and laws have failed, can technology help? Can it ensure the safety of women? In today's world, technology is a convenience, even a distraction sometimes, but for women, it can be a powerful tool. Take WalkSafe, for example. It was launched in the UK in 2021, and since then, it's been a hit. The app includes a live map. Your friends and family can track you. They can even chat with you. But here's the key differentiator. The app gives you the safest route back home. How? By combing through recent crime data. India too has something similar. It's called Safety Pin. It gives you the safest route option. If you choose a dangerous route, your contacts are notified immediately. But what happens if you cannot access your phone? Well, you have wearable gadgets then, your smart rings, smart jewelry, smart watches, SOS buttons. They can send out discrete signals with just a press of the button. Cab services are joining the fray too. The likes of Ola and Uber, they're integrating SOS buttons, GPS tracking, real-time trip sharing, and background checks. Of course, this has not eliminated crimes against women, but it's like an extra layer of safety. And it's not just private players. Governments too are stepping up. There are SOS mobile apps, panic buttons on state transport, and smart surveillance systems. Look at the state of Telangana. They have something called T-Safe. It is India's first ride monitoring service. You simply dial 100 or 112. You request monitoring. You get an automated link, and after that, the police is monitoring your journey. The women's safety software market is valued at $2 billion. By 2031, it could be worth $3.5 billion. So it is growing, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But this is the world we live in. States and countries are also using algorithms and analytics. They comb through data, predict hotspots for crime, and those areas can then be monitored. But here's the problem. On paper, all of this sounds great. AI telling you a safe route, panic button for your night runs, apps to track you where you go. It's like having an invisible shield. But how reliable is this weapon? I'll give you an example from Spain. They have a domestic violence algorithm. Say you've been abused by a partner. You go to the police station. They ask you to answer some questions, 35 yes or no questions. An algorithm will then analyze your answers, and based on that, you may or may not be given protection. In the case of a 32-year-old woman, it said that she needed no protection, but 7 weeks later, her abusive husband stabbed her and she died on the spot. It shows you how tech can get it wrong sometimes, and in this case, it was fatal. It was the difference between life and death. But more than that, technology is also a reminder that the onus is still on women. They must navigate with caution, they must exercise vigilance, they must always be alert, or else their life could be in danger. To be honest, it's unfair and unacceptable, and above all, it's exhausting, the constant thought of safety on your mind. Which is why we say technology can only be a crutch. It cannot be the solution. It can help, but it cannot change why women are unsafe in the first place. For that, we need a societal shift, a collective reckoning, to make sure safety is not just a privilege for women, it's a right. Safety is her right. Our next story is from Africa, from Botswana in the south. Botswana is home to just about 2.5 million people. It's one of the most sparsely populated countries on the planet. But what it lacks in manpower, it more than makes up for in natural resources. Botswana is blessed with an abundance of minerals, none more famous than its diamonds. This country is the world's second largest producer of diamonds, and now the world's second largest diamond has been discovered here. It's a gigantic stone weighing 2,492 carats. That's about half a kilogram. A diamond, half a kilogram. This massive diamond was unveiled yesterday to the delight of Botswana's president and gemstone enthusiasts the world over. Here's our report.
And put your hands out.
Both.
Both. You have to have both. And
What?
so this is the 2,492 carat stone.
God is good.
He's awesome.
That was how the world's second largest diamond was unveiled. It's a 2,492 carat stone. It comes to 498.4 grams, almost half a kilogram. As you can see, it barely fits in the palm of an adult. The diamond doesn't have a name yet. The details about its quality haven't been revealed. So we can't predict exactly how much it's worth, but it's safe to say that the diamond will fetch millions.
See, there's a rainbow there. So when the rainbow shows what there's been.
I can. And I can see roads being built.
Yes.
I see
Yeah,
hospitals.
true that. And hospitals and everything else.
Yeah.
The president of Botswana is thrilled. So is the person with him. She's the Botswana managing director of the Lukera Diamond Corp, the Canadian company that found the diamond. Lukera owns the Caraway mine in Botswana's northeast, and it's literally a diamond mine. The gem that you just saw was recently unearthed. It's the second largest ever found. But before this, the very same Caraway mine held the same record for producing the world's second largest diamond. In 2019, a 1,758 carat black diamond was found there. It was named the Sewelo, meaning rare find. And giant diamonds like these are indeed rare. The record for the largest diamond ever found was set 119 years ago. It was called the Cullinan diamond. It was found in South Africa in 1905. That diamond was 3,106 carats and it weighed more than 621 grams. But sadly, it was found when South Africa was still a British colony. And it was promptly gifted to the then British monarch, Edward VII. The Cullinan diamond was cut into multiple smaller stones, and the bigger cuts were added to the British crown jewels. Thankfully, that era is over now. Charles and the gang won't be getting their hands on this one, at least not for free. Instead, some of the money from the diamond will go into Botswana's coffers.
They mean everything to us, in the good times and the bad times. Diamond prices are going through a very difficult time right now, but yet every diamond remains precious and valuable.
He's right about that though. Of late, diamonds have lost their luster, all thanks to the introduction of lab-grown diamonds. These are artificial stones made in labs. They've caused the prices of real diamonds to crash, and this negatively impacts countries like Botswana, countries that depend on real diamonds. Diamonds make up about 30% of Botswana's GDP and 80% of its exports. Presently, foreign mining companies get the lion's share of this money. Lukera, for example, owns 100% of the mine and only has to pay a 10% royalty. But Botswana wants to change this. It's trying to bring in a law that will allow locals to buy shares in the mines, which means that perhaps soon the people of Botswana will be able to benefit from every record-breaking find.
Do you remember what happened on this day last year? If you're an Indian, you most likely do. Across the nation, people were at the edge of their seat, their eyes glued to television screens, their pulses racing. There were moments of terror and finally, moments of joy and pride. It's been exactly 1 year since then. Since the Chandrayaan-3 mission, today marks the anniversary of its historic milestone when India made a soft landing on the moon's south pole. It is a tough terrain, it is dark, no country had ever landed on this part of the moon before, but India made it happen. It was a proud moment for the country. So today India is celebrating its very first National Space Day. This is a testament to our success and our story. After the Second World War, space was considered the playground of the rich, dominated by the US and the Soviet Union. They had tons of money, so they took turns launching rockets. And they were ace gatekeepers. They created hindrances for India. They mocked us. But India has remained undeterred from carrying satellites on cycles, rocket components on bullock carts, and being pinned down by sanctions to landing on the moon. India's space program has reached new heights. And without a $1 billion budget. Chandrayaan-3 mission cost $75 million. That is 2/3 of the budget of Hollywood movies like Interstellar and Gravity. And this is equal parts funny and inspiring. But the story has only just begun. 2023 was a busy year for India's space program with making history and all. Since then, things have been quiet at Sriharikota, that is India's spaceport. But there's a lot of action behind the scenes, like the launch of Aditya L1, the solar science mission, an ExpoSat, or the X-ray polarimeter satellite to study radiation in space. These are no minor feats, but the priority for ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, has been this: Gaganyaan. Gaganyaan is a crewed spacecraft built to undertake human space flights. Currently, the Gaganyatris, or the astronauts, are undergoing training. They are on a tight clock. The first uncrewed Gaganyaan will fly later this year, and the crewed flight, the one with humans on board, is scheduled for next year. ISRO hopes the mission will be successful, all of us do, and for this too will be historic. As India forays further into space, the nation's space economy is also growing rapidly. It stands at about $8 billion at the moment. The plan is to reach $44 billion by 2033. It's an ambitious goal, but is it possible? The space sector is booming. There is 100% foreign direct investment. Private players are taking root, so more money is flowing, technology is improving, development time is reducing. There are a number of older aerospace companies in the market, the likes of HAL and Godrej Aerospace. They mainly manufacture space components for ISRO. But it is the newer, more independent space companies that have changed the game. They're designing, manufacturing, innovating, and even launching spacecrafts. For instance, Gaganyaan is being conducted by a private company called Axiom Space. And that speaks volumes. Since the 2010s, space startups have been cropping up across India. Today, there are more than 200 of them. Last year, they saw investments worth 1,000 crore rupees, that's $119 million. India's space sector has been growing at about 4% a year. This is way higher than the global average, which is 2%. India is growing at 4%. But even at this rate, we will reach $40 billion only by 2040. So if India wants to meet its goal to reach $44 billion within the next decade, it needs more private players and it needs them fast. Sky is not the limit for India, but with a little more push, it could be the launch pad. The Democratic Convention has wrapped up in Chicago. Kamala Harris headlined the last day, but all the focus was on people who did not attend. Before the event began, there was a lot of speculation, mainly about 3 possible attendees: Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and George Bush. I know it's a weird trio. Taylor and Beyonce dropped killer music. Bush dropped killer bombs. But as it turned out, none of them came. Taylor's absence left a blank space at the convention. Beyonce must have realized that Harris is not a single lady. And Bush probably thought DNC meant do not come. Or who knows, maybe he's still in Iraq searching for those nuclear weapons. Either way, internet had a fun response to these missing stars. All they could do was joke about it. Take a look.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." It fooled me. We can't get fooled again.
Does that sound like something you want?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, you'll never get it.
Who had been saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
Keep saying that. That's great. Keep saying it. Just keep saying it. Keep saying it out loud. And maybe you will convince Hope, because you won't be convincing anybody else, so dream on.
You better get her back here, Andy. Get her back here.
Listen to me.
Get her back here.
Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. A volcano in southwestern Iceland erupts in its 6th outbreak since December. Hundreds of sea lions have taken over a beach in California, and an array of rainbow-colored kites takes to the skies in Bulgaria. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1939, Germany and the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact. They carved up Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. They also agreed to not attack or invade each other. The pact was terminated in 1941 when Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. We're leaving you on that note. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment.
So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree. One tree for humanity. One tree for Mother Earth. One tree for our future. Project One Tree. a News 18 network initiative.
On this today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can we expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
Start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. The first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.